Today at Commander Replay, we try some blue-black mill with Phenax, God of Deceptions. Can we mill out Horde of Notions, Teferi Temporal Adept, and Rune-Tail Kitsune? Find out next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, I want to take a quick second to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have two new Patreon supporters in Thomas Terry and Tyler LaRoque. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Phenax, God of Deceptions today, doing some blue-black mill. And today's deck comes to us from Patreon supporter Ray, and he decided that we needed some milling in our life, so here we are. Taking a look at our opening hand, we have 2 lands plus Soul Ring plus a lot of 1 and 2 drops. I like this hand. We'll be able to get a lot of quick stuff going, and we can also use the Divining Top to hopefully find our way into some blue mana nice and quickly. You know what, I might actually just start with Altar of the Brood turn 1 so that we can get the maximum amount of milling. We draw a swamp off the top, was kind of hoping for a blue source right there, but what can you do? So we'll play this swamp, and then we'll play the Altar of the Brood. And now whenever we play any permanents, opponents will have to start milling, and being that it's turn 1, this seems like a pretty ideal time to lay down this Altar of the Brood. Taking a look at what our opponents are playing, I'm joined by 3 Patreon supporters today. We have Chaotix 2075 running this Horde of Notions deck. I believe this is the deck that they said that they play some cards that can change creature types, and they can cast a bunch of stuff from their graveyard using Horde of Notions. I think that's going to be this deck. We'll find out as the game goes along. And that'll bring it back to our turn. There's that blue source we were looking for, so that's good. Drop down that island. Altar of the Brood's going to trigger. Play the Soul Ring. Altar of the Brood will trigger. Use the Soul Ring. Play the Divining Top. Take a look with the Divining Top. Dimir Doppelganger, Ghostly Flicker, and Stifle. We could stifle the Myriad Landscape. That would be absolutely savage. We did tap out our blue mana, though, so probably not this turn. Thinking maybe Dimir Doppelganger is probably the best thing going right now. I don't think we need these other 2 things just yet. And anything else we can do? That looks like it for now. And we'll pass the turn like that. See if we got anything good in the mill section. There's a creature that we can reanimate. It's another Guildmage deck. I think it's similar to the Guildmage deck that we saw yesterday from the Joda Archmage Eternal deck. So, yeah, it should be interesting. This will be a much better matchup for the Guildmage opponent, as that Azami deck we were playing was just insane. How would you guys rate the Azami deck? Like, I was talking to someone in the comments, and we were talking about what the power level of that deck was. I put it at, like, a 9.5. For me, I think the only thing better is just going to be super fast combo with a lot of counter spells. I don't know how much better you want to get from that Azami list. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe it's a 9. I don't know. I guess it's probably relative to what kind of decks you face on the regular, but yeah, I'm curious to see your thoughts on that. So we draw into the Dimir Doppelganger, and what else do we mill? Well, Solemn Simulacrum doesn't do much when it's already in play. So Search for Escanta coming down for the Teferi opponent. Land pass from the Rune opponent, and that brings it to our turn 3. So we are going to drop a land, take a look with the Divining Top. We had a Nykthos Shrine the Nyx to the mix. Rhyme intended. Still Stifle, Nykthos, Ghostly Flicker. Stifle on top. Nykthos in the middle, Ghostly Flicker. And where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. I think it's going to be Boots and Mindcrank. Ooh, we just hit a Glenelendra. That'll be a good one to copy with the Doppelganger. And we'll pass turn like that. Darksteel Ingot for the Horde of Notions opponent. Continuing on what our opponents are playing, we have another Patreon supporter, El Plurde, playing Teferi Temporal Archmage, a commander that I have no particular love for. It can do some broken stuff. It is a really easy combo commander. Basically any of the mana rocks and anything, and it just takes off. They're going to get to take a look with Search for Escanta. Mind Stone coming down, and a Felwar Stone, sure. Our opponent with the most cards left in their library is 83 cards, so we are playing Mill today. We do have Mindcrank going, and Altar of the Brood already. Seems pretty good. Next turn, we'll probably look at some combination of Phenax or Dimir Doppelganger. And a Wall of Reverence coming into play, sure. Good life gain card. I'm surprised Rune didn't play their commander last turn. So going to gain some life with Wall of Reverence, yep. And that brings it back to our turn. There's a Ghostly Flicker. Drop down this Urborg. Altar of the Brood will trigger, do a little more milling. I think we play the Phenax right here. That does a little bit more milling. Put the boots on Phenax. Oh, it's not a creature. No boots, right. Yep. Can't do that until we get enough devotion. And, yeah, I think we pass turn like that. We'll take a look with the Divining Top at some point. Oh, no. Opponent's going to destroy the Mindcrank. Nope, not enough mana to save anything, so Mind Crank down. Bummer. Opponent going to swing into us with the Guild Mage. Sure. And we're down to 36. Taking a look at our opponent's graveyard, there's a Wiltleaf Liege. It's got a sizable body to it. Zamek Guild Mage. Glenelendra, probably the most exciting in this current moment. Actually, let's see what the white opponent has. Test of Endurance. Weathered Wayfarer is actually pretty sweet. Palisade Giant. Ooh, that could be useful. If it's about to die, we could copy the Solemn Simulacrum. Take a lot of mana to do all that, but yeah. Actually, the Palisade Giant will be really good with Phenax because we'll get 7 on the milling, so I like that. Here comes the Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants. A card that I would have expected to see a little bit more of in Commander, but really haven't seen very much of. The ability to return target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less is pretty good. I mean, I guess that's more well-suited to standard play, where 2-drops are a pretty big deal. In Commander, your 2-drops don't necessarily do a lot of damage, but there's some really good ones in white. Things like Stoneforge Mystic and Pure Steel Paladin. Also Selfless Spirit. Pretty good 2-drops that you can have in white, so... yeah, just surprised that I haven't run into more Ajani yet. And opponent does lay down a Suture Priest. That'll be good. So we draw the Nykthos, play the Nykthos. That'll trigger the Altar. So we're going to play the Dimir Doppelganger. Ooh, we're short on blue. Yeah, that's frustrating. Well, let's take a look with the Divining Top. I meant to take a look with the Divining Top earlier. Grizzly Spectacle, mills equal to the power. Probably a good card to have. Maybe, actually, I want the Island, quite honestly. Sadly, we already played a land this turn. Yep, could have set that turn up so much better with the Divining Top before we got to do that. So, with that being the case, we'll lay down this Dimir Doppelganger. That'll trigger the Suture Priest and the Altar of the Brood. We're going to put some boots on the Dimir Doppelganger. It's got a little bit of protection. And then we'll pass like that. And we'll start milling someone before the end step. Probably Teferi. Ooh, they haven't. Teferi with Eldrazi, huh? Yeah. Artisan of Kozilek, much safer in the graveyard than anywhere else. Opponent's going to pump up their Guild Mage. Going to swing into the Ajani. It has Intimidate. That's actually pretty cool. So I think Ajani's going to go down right here. Search for Azcanta. Yeah, they'll be flipping that thing over in no time. Search for Azcanta against the mill deck. Yeah. So I'm getting a little bit worried now because we got off to such a good start with the Soul Ring and like really emptied out our hand, but we could really use some card draw to kind of reinforce our position. And we do not yet have that. I mean, there's actually a chance that I might mill myself just to like look at some new cards. I'm not in love with what's on top of our deck. And there's Teferi. Our deck, very poorly suited to deal with this Teferi. Opponent's going to untap a bunch of stuff. Yep. Ooh, that's a Consecrated Sphinx. Hope someone's got some removal for that, because we have the Grizzly Spectacle on top. So I think we'll be needing that. We have to take a look before our end step. Consecrated Sphinx, another one. Return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hand. Oh, rough. So Phenax and Dimir Doppelganger get bounced by the Washout, and that'll bring it to the Rune-Tail's a turn. And Rune-Tail coming into play. Our last opponent, by the way, forgot to talk about them. Now 6 turns into the game. Archangel 227 playing Rune-Tail Kitsune Ascendant. A pretty cool mono white commander that just doesn't seem to show up very much. Unique in that it cares about having 30 life, which you start the game with more than 30 life. So you just play it on turn 3, and unless something went terribly wrong in the first 2 turns, it just flips over and says, prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. Pretty good. If you want to be winning in combat, yeah, that's a card for you. Card I've looked at in Aurelia a little bit, but sometimes Aurelia's life total will start to bleed if she gets focused down. So once you get below 30, it's pretty hard to get flipped over. So Wall of Reverence will trigger. We'll take a look at the Divining Top. I think it's still the Grizzly Spectacle on top. Yep. So Stifle, Island, Grizzly Spectacle. So we draw the Grizzly Spectacle. Opponent will get to draw 2 cards. Hopefully no free counter spells in there. They are tapped out on mana currently. We're going to go ahead and shoot that Consecrated Sphinx. Opponent's at 73 cards. Goes down to 69, so what we get? 4 cards in that? That's all right. Then we will recast the Dimir Doppelganger. That'll trigger the Altar of the Brood. And that also triggers the Suture Priest. Put the boots on Dimir Doppelganger. And pass the turn like that. Creekwood Liege coming down for the Horde of Notions opponent. Sure. We will need to be careful against Horde of Notions since as the game goes longer, then they can do the Reanimator thing. Milling them is just going to give them more options of cards to get out of their graveyard, so something to be careful of. The one card we haven't hit yet from the Teferi is the Chain Veil. That's the one that we really want to get rid of. I would also like to mill any of the blue effects like Time Twister that recycle their graveyard into their library, because that's obviously really bad for what we want to be doing. Here comes an Archaeomancer. Oh boy, what's this getting? Probably the Washout. Recurring Insight's also a card. They could potentially be drawing a lot. Going for the Cyclonic Rift. Ugh. So Teferi's going to tap a bunch of stuff, and now opponent's sitting in prime Cyclonic Rift territory. There's a Propaganda. That does not protect Teferi. Does protect them from getting attacked by creatures, though. There's an Ameria Shepherd coming into play. That's really good versus a mill deck. They have many permanents that they can get back from their graveyard. That Planeswalker seems pretty cool. Veteran Bodyguard seems alright. Test of Endurance, they're at 44. Weathered Wayfarer, the Giant, yeah. Pariah. Opponent counters that with an Arcane Denial. How much mana do they have left? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they still have enough for the Cyclonic Rift. Not ideal. It doesn't really have a lot of attackers, which is not the best either. Oh, I know what we can do. With Cyclonic Rift on the stack, we can turn into, what's that card? Oh, this is going to be tricky. Okay. So, crap, we only have one blue source. If we had enough blue mana, there's no guarantee that opponent won't do it right now. I think we force their hand. I'm going to try this. So I'm going to try to copy their Consecrated Sphinx so that we'll get some extra card draw off of all of this. We'll see if opponent tries to Rift right now. Nope, lets it go. Nope, now they're going for it. So they're going to overload the Cyclonic Rift. Yeah, I was worried that might happen. Take another look with the top. Knowledge Pool, huh? Let's go. Does Stifle help us in any way? No, not right here. So Stifle, Knowledge Pool, Island. Unfortunately, that does exile the Sphinx, so now the Sphinx is gone. We'll go to our draw step. Gonna play Altar of the Brood, play Soul Ring, play a land, play Greaves, and play Divining Top. So we just got a bunch more milling done. Opponent's down to 62. Though I kind of wish I did the play with the Glen Elendra right there instead. I was going greedy. We could have drawn so many cards if they let that stick. Darksteel Ingot for the Horde of Notions opponent. And the Guildmage coming back to play. We did get rid of Gilded Drake, Time Spiral. Those are some big hits. Still need to get Time Twister and the Chain Veil. Muldrifter into play for the Teferi. So they get to draw 2 cards. And that's an Hour of Revelation. That is awesome. Well, we're going to draw with the Divining Top. Then we'll get rid of our Boots, our Soul Ring, and our Altar of the Brood, though. And that Altar of the Brood is really doing some work. We draw into the Knowledge Pool. Hour of Revelation, such a good card. As long as it doesn't get countered, see if it resolves. Doesn't look like it's gonna. Opponent's gonna Evacuation. That's still gonna get rid of a bunch of their rocks. Propaganda, Search for Iskanta, that is still huge. Namely getting rid of Teferi. That's a big play. And opponent's gonna follow that up with an Authority of the Consuls. And lay their Suture Priest back down. And Rune-Tail coming back to play. They're at 45. That's going to flip over. And it triggers the Suture Priest. So that was a nice little reset right there. It does hurt us a little bit, but it hurts the Teferi more. They had a lot of stuff on board, and they needed to be shut down a little bit. And it's also turn 8. They've been missing land drops pretty hard. We've missed 2, which isn't ideal. Rune-Tail's made all of them. I think they even accelerated one. That kind of stuff is going to matter as this game goes long, so... Brings it back to our turn. We draw into our Divining Top. I think this turn is going to be Phenax. Do we Knowledge Pool right here? I don't want to Knowledge Pool just yet. I really want to get Phenax down. And then get the Divining Top down. Makes me sad that Altar of the Brood is gone. That was doing real work for us. 17 cards in Graveyard for the Horde of Notions. I think that was all from the Altar of the Brood. Maybe 1 or 2 creatures that died from the board wipes. Pretty good. Creekwood Liege coming back to play. Creekwood Liege is pretty cool. It spits out 3/3 tokens. I know it's a little slow because you need to untap with it, but if you get it down on like turn 3, turn 4, and just let it goes for a couple turns, you're going to have a lot of power. And especially since you're in green, you can run Heroic Intervention from the board wipe that will probably be coming at some point. Yeah, that Hour of Revelation was so big. Muldrifter coming back to play for the Teferi opponent, sure. Authority of the Consuls and Suture Priest will trigger. Buried Ruin for the Rune-Tail opponent. Probably pretty good since we're milling them out. They've got an Ether Flux Reservoir. That one's scary. They're going to play a Sunscorch Regent. That's also very scary. Recast Wall of Reverence. So they're going to be gaining some life. It's equal to the power of target creature you control. And that Sunscorch is going to get pretty big. And with the Buried Ruin, they're going to be able to get back that Ether Flux Reservoir. They can start killing people. Do we draw the Stifle? Yeah, let's draw the Stifle. We may need that to protect ourselves against the Aetherflux Reservoir. And then I think it's going to be the Dimir Doppelganger. I really want to get a creature into play. That'll trigger the Sunscorch Regent. That also triggers the Authority of the Consuls and the Suture Priest. And then we're going to pass like that. I want to get this Dimir Doppelganger copied onto something, probably the Giant, so we can start milling for 7 a hit, which seems like a pretty good place to be. And next turn, I'll think about the Knowledge Pool and see what kind of stuff that can offer us. As of right now, though, we're pretty wide open to this Sunscorch Regent. A little bit scary. Here comes Knight of New Alara. It's a 4/4. And that'll also trigger the Authority and the Suture Priest, as well as the Sunscorch Regent. No attacks from the Creekwood Liege. Oh, opponent's going to Curse of Swine on a Dimir Doppelganger? That means we're going to have to Ghostly Flicker it. I really want that thing to stay in play. They hit 2 of the creatures from the Horde of Notions opponent. I'm thinking a Maria Shepherd may actually be the one to copy, because even if we drop a land, we can start getting permanents back from our graveyard to our hand, which I like a lot. Ooh. Ivra coming into play. Can pay 4, exchange your life total with Ivra. It's a 4/4 with lifelink. Interesting. Use the Divining Top right here. We have Whispering Madness, Mystic Remora, and Reflecting Pool. Those are some good cards. Yeah, I think Whispering Madness is the one that we want. 2 opponents have 6 cards in hand, so I think that's where we want to be. It'll make me sad to lose the Stifle against Aetherflux Reservoir. So that brings it back to our turn. We draw the Whispering Madness. We're going to play the Whispering Madness. Teferi is tapped out, thankfully. Opponent's going to play... opponent's going to put Oblation on our Phenax. So we lose Phenax, but we draw 2 cards. We're going to lose Leyline of the Void. Oh, that's sad. We draw into some stuff. We're going to use the Cipher. So we're going to Cipher. Now we've got a Mind Grind, a Psychosis Strike. Psychosis Strike seems pretty good. Can we get this Feast and Famine? Yeah, we can. Oh, no, we don't have enough. We don't have the 5 mana to play and equip all in the same turn. So we're going to pass like that and then decide what we need to use the most between the Psychic Strike or copying a creature. If we can get a lot of mana going, Mind Grind might be a way to victory. Jeskai Ascendancy for our opponent. Interesting. Arcane Adaptation coming in. Yep, there it is. So opponent's going to be able to reanimate things if they want to, as soon as they cast their commander. Chosen type is Elemental, so all of the opponent's creatures are now Elementals. Mana Vault coming down for the Teferi. I think they can recast Teferi now. They can cast a Kozilek Butcher of Truth. Well, probably going to have to counter the Kozilek. So counter the Kozilek, mill them 2 more. Wanted to save that for the Aetherflux Reservoir, but Kozilek is kind of problematic. Opponent still gets to draw 4, though. They've got to be back on Teferi mana next turn, so that's a problem, too. Here's 8.5 tails. Sure. Opponent just used the Buried Rune. Did they get the Aetherflux? Yep, they got the Aetherflux. Oh, that's so not good. I didn't cast it yet. That's something. Gonna swing with Ivra into the Horde of Notions opponent. Sure. Does have lifelink. Opponent can block and kill it, though. They do have a lot of tokens. Yes, they're going to do that. So they can exchange life totals with Ivra and make it huge and then kill the tokens. The good news is if they do that, they can't recast Aetherflux Reservoir. Oh, right. Damage is prevented. Rune-Tail. Yep, never mind. So here comes Aetherflux Reservoir. Good luck to everyone. Really missing that Stifle right about now. And they just decided to do 50 to the Teferi. Teferi gone. Seems fair to me. Opponent down to 22, and we'll gain some life back with the Wall of Reverence. So Teferi down to the Aetherflux. I'm really glad Teferi didn't win. Teferi is one of those decks that just makes me so angry. Right here, yeah, we'll take a look with the Divining Top. Wall of Frost, Reliquary Tower, Swamp. Not really super interested in any of that stuff. I guess Wall of Frost gives us milling. This is awkward. So if we hit with the sword, we'll untap with the lands, but because of the Cipher, we'll lose our Mind Grind. And I think Mind Grind is going to be one of our ways to victory. So I think I'm going to copy the Amaria Shepherd. So we now have an Amaria Shepherd. We're going to play the Scalding Tarn. Or this allows us to get a permanent back. I'm thinking Soul Ring. Soul Ring. Yep, return the Soul Ring. We're going to crack the fetch. Get a Watery Grave. Untapped. Amaria Shepherd will trigger it again. I'm going to get the Altar of the Brood right here. Still think we can do a lot more with that. So I'm going to play the Altar of the Brood. Play the Soul Ring. Altar of the Brood will do some milling. I used my mana wrong. I wanted to go for the Wall of Frost this turn, but we're going to go for the Feast and Famine right here. Feast and Famine will probably get us killed, but I want to get it out of our hand. That'll trigger the Altar of the Brood. Take another look with the Divining Top. Island, Vidalcan Orrery, huh? I mean, maybe we do hit with the Amaria Shepherd. Opponents don't have that much. They could hit back with Horde of Notions, but we wouldn't be able to block that anyway. No, I'm going to keep the Mind Grind. I still think that's the one. I think that's the one that we need. Hopefully we don't just die to a bunch of life gain. I'm worried about Ivra's ability. If they do it, there's got to be some way to abuse that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm sure there is one. Deathbringer Liege coming into play. There's an interesting one. Whenever opponent plays a white spell, they may tap target creature. Whenever they play a black spell, they may destroy a target creature if it's tapped. Sort of like an Icy Manipulator and a Royal Assassin, combined all into one. And those were two cards that I played often. Oh, please don't shoot our guy. So a Bant Sureblade coming down, that's going to trigger the Deathbringer Liege. Oh, that's only the white half. Okay, we're cool. Still prefer if they tap down one of our opponent's things. Going to tap down that wall, sure. Bant Sureblade comes in tapped because of the authority of the consoles. Oh, that's a good point, too. Our creatures will come in tapped because of authority. So assuming we don't get wrecked this turn, I think the plan is going to be drop a land, use the Soul Ring, equip the Feast and Famine, play Mind Grind for a bunch, untap, and then see what kind of things happen after that. Opponents have a little bit of power out. They don't have tons and tons of power out yet, especially considering that it's turn 12. Usually expect some pretty big armies by this point. Opponent gonna swing into us with the Ivra, sure. Gonna be no blocks on that. Trying to get their life total back up, I assume. What did the opponent just do? Oh, they gained a bunch of life. Oh, they're at 38. It's not good. And then Ivra becomes a 38-38. And we're gonna die to that. Wow. That sucks. That was totally preventable. Although, I guess we were in pretty far on the Amaria Shepherd plan. Oh, man. Well, could have played that a lot better. And now opponent's going to gain... Ooh. So opponent gains mass amount of life. They're up to 80. And they just need to Aetherflux it for the win. Wow. Ivra and Aetherflux doing some work. The white opponent still had about 15 lands in their deck, so Mind Grind... We wouldn't have been able to Mind Grind for enough to get the win last turn. So, Archangel 227 getting there with Rune-Tail. Ooh, it's a lot of removal. Wrath of God. Martyr's Bond. Yeah, they had some stuff. Angelic Renewal. Pretty good. Yeah, so getting there with Rune-Tail Kitsune. So, Phenax Mill. Interesting deck concept. It's a deck that I've seen a few times before. It can win. It's not the easiest thing to do. Mill decks seem to get unfairly targeted. Like, I haven't seen mill decks win that often. I mean, it happens every once in a while, but as soon as someone sees that you're playing mill, you seem to start taking a lot of hate. People just really don't like being milled. And it's like, you know, mill strategies are fine, and sometimes they work, but much of the time they don't. So yeah, I think they just get unfairly targeted sometimes. As far as this deck specifically... One thing I was looking for was a little bit of card draw. I misplayed a little bit with the Consecrated Sphinx play. I should have gone for Glenalendra and then countered the Cyclonic Rift. I got a little greedy. I wasn't sure if they would let us keep that Cyclonic Rift, at least for the draws or not, but it didn't work out that way. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.